I ran up a check, I might do it again. Enemies close, had me thinking they're friends. 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city, I don't feel safe in my hands. Took so many years, I'm just waiting for the wins. I'm in debt to no one but the one who took my sins. I do it for real, there's no reason to pretend. If I do it once, I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up, told her if it's all me, everything is on me, gon' back it up. Matter what, told you I'ma do me, why you hating on me, it's not adding up. I do roll like a Mack truck, country heart, I might cop a farm and go act up. Lot of scars, I was cold-hearted, now I'm back up. Keep it real, I do this once a month, I don't rap much. I just take the money and go stack up. Only buying car till you get tatted up. All that other bull, it don't matter much. You only climb me, I put the ladders up. I ran up a check, I might do it again. Enemies close, had me thinking they're friends.
Good evening, YouTube. What's happening? Happy Saturday. We are back. A&M, Anthony, Mike, almost mediocre sports guys. What is happening, Mike?
Not too much, my bud. What are you doing? How's everything going? How's the family doing?
Good. We're doing good. Doing real good over here, actually. It's crazy week going on. So much going on. It's school starting again and this and that. So, daughter's back to finally a full week of it. And then, you got all the stuff, back to school stuff and getting the supplies and all that, go to visit the teachers and all this stuff. There's so much that goes
Did the school supplies hit the wallet pretty hard this year?
Well, yeah, and I don't understand why. It's like some of the stuff that's on here. It's like what do you need that for? And I don't understand half the stuff that we're using it for, but I don't know.
I had that same question when I went to school too. It's like they hand you like a notebook and a pencil, and I was like, "What am I supposed to do with this stuff?" I mean, I don't plan on writing anything, so what's the point?
Well, then that's the thing, right? It's like they expect these kids to learn, I guess, or something when they
go. So, how does she like the first week?
Well, she loved it actually. She's so happy because she actually got her kindergarten teacher as her second grade teacher.
Kidding.
So she was thrilled. She loved it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, we just did a back to school thing last week on Friday and went over to visit her teacher and see the school again, see how everything is and what she does so far. And so she
have a lot of the same friends this year, from the same class and all
so that? She usually was having the same amount of friends, but then this year they seem to kind of spread them out a little bit more in different classes. So she's not kind of with the same ones, but she has a few that are still on there with her. But
yeah, that always helps a little bit. I mean, that was always good for me if I had like at least one buddy or something like that was in the next grade and all that stuff. I mean, somebody else to get in trouble with, gets into the principal's office, all those good things.
I know. I had my fair share of friends that I stuck with going up there. I was like, oh, we can easily get in trouble all the time here, for sure. For sure. But man, Mike, there's not a whole lot going on, sports-wise and stuff.
Not too crazy
and things like that. But we have been seeing things kind of just pop up that we've been talking about. And if you guys have noticed, I put on here, where do we stand with sports right now? And Mike and I are kind of had a lot of talks recently about this, and we've actually getting in more in depth about how we feel about professional sports itself. Right now,
deep soul searching, folks.
It's a rough situation right now, folks, for all of us. When it comes to sports, where it's just, what were we talking about that I was kind of questioning a lot about? Oh, when we were talking about the Noah Lyles, is that the Olympian or whatever, was talking about Tyreek Hill, and he didn't know, he thought he was faster than him, or he didn't even recognize him, and Josh Hart wanted, him to lose, and it's like, have we come to a point where now that, we want our own Olympians to lose? I mean, we're in the United States. Josh Hart is a American, and he's over here saying, oh, I wish the guy would lose, and this and that, and I get the whole situation too at Noah, and I hope he wasn't lying about the whole COVID thing. as to why he lost that race. If he did have it, obviously I hope he got better. He did get better pretty quick, which is why a lot of people were saying it could have just it was a fake or whatever, but just because he lost. But I hope it wasn't, and I get that's what it. But at the same time, it's like we're not even supporting these people anymore. When it comes to the Olympics, that's where we're coming at sports nowadays.
Well, but it kind of speaks on what we usually talk about too. But I mean, in certain sports, particularly with like basketball, football to some point, baseball is there too. But really, if you look at basketball, and it's become so much me, me, me. It's about my stats. It's about this for me, my money, my stats. It's not always about teamwork. You and I both know this. I mean, and we saw this again with the Olympics. We talked about this with Tatum and what was going on with the Olympics, and how does he not at least step on the court for even 1 minute? You're the one who made me aware of that. And I'm like, 1 minute of basketball in the Olympics? You made the team and you want to let him play. And then there's no support. And it's just,
Oh well,
it
yeah,
is,
and,
it's
and
disappointing.
to your point with that Tatum, real quick thing is because I've been hearing a lot of it, and I totally agree with people on this. Tatum's never going to play again. He's gone out of the Olympics. You will not see this. And here's another thing, and that I heard, and I totally agree with this is Steve Kerr might have just created a dynasty in Boston. And what I mean by that is,
Yeah, possibly.
think about it, right? He didn't play Tatum
Yeah.
1 minute at all. He didn't play. He
Yeah.
passed up on Jaylen Brown, who won
Yeah.
Finals MVP, who some people at the end of the season were saying was better than Tatum.
Yeah.
And you didn't have either, and you got one of them on the team. When Kawhi left, you could have brought Jalen in. You didn't still, and you didn't play Tatum 1 minute. You're telling me you just didn't possibly create a dynasty right there and get these guys so mad that they're going to try to take over the league.
Yes, yeah, and I'll go so far as to say I disagree on the Tatum thing with the Olympics, but I think if it was Steve Kerr, who obviously we know is going to step down now, if he were still in place, Tatum would have nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing. I think he's a smart kid. He's a good ball player. I really believe he sees a change in coaching staff and things like that. I think Tatum can be convinced to give it a shot. I really do. I
Yeah,
think he will be
yeah.
back. If it was Steve Kerr,
I
there's no chance. Forget it.
I don't
Screw it.
know. I don't think
But
I don't think he will. I think he's done. I don't think he'll try it again.
nah, yes,
And
I
the
think
other,
he'll
but the
be
other
there.
problem is I think this was one of the last years that the USA is going to be good when it comes to the Olympics. They're going to struggle.
Yeah.
They're going to struggle a lot, and especially if you lose somebody like Tatum and Brown doesn't want to go play or something like that, and you have to start filling these roster spots where Steph, KD, LeBron, those guys aren't going to be there anymore to fill those slots.
Yeah.
So you got. I hope they didn't ruin it for him because I'm a Tatum fan. I'm not a Boston fan, but I do like Tatum a lot. So I
But you know what, bud? Let's get real here. And I don't know if you agree with this or not, and a lot of people would not. And I go all the way back to when it was the Dream Team, because that's what the U.S. put together because they were tired of the amateurs losing. That's how the whole thing came about is because the U.S. can no longer win the Olympics because our amateurs weren't good enough to be their professional ball players. And that's
yeah
fair. I get it. So
yeah
you put the Dream Team together, and going forward, we know what happened, obviously, and how the Dream Team dominated everybody, and we've seen what happened, since then. I mean, it's about these super teams that they put together. But my thing was this: is there was a point in time where it was almost not really. You can even look at the Dream Team; those games, they weren't entirely enjoyable to watch because teams were getting annihilated. There was no competitive balance. They just couldn't keep up with the U.S.
well
So it kind
yeah
of took out
and that's kind of
the
what
pleasure
some
of
of
it
these
all.
people are talking about is just oh like this year's team or whatever. Oh well, they even though they won, they took the gold. I mean, it wasn't they didn't go kill everybody, but that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you go in there and
Yeah.
do. You're not supposed to keep the games close. You're not supposed to entertain
No.
anybody. The Olympics, I mean, for the basketball team, those guys, that's why a lot of those guys they talk about when you listen nowadays. And this is one thing, I knock a lot sometimes on social media, to an extent to where it's like, you know what, we're in a whole different time frame, this and that. But I'll tell you what, the one thing that has brought that I really love about social media is things that we do. Be able to talk about sports to people. Now you can also get these athletes who didn't get a chance to because they were in the 80s and the 90s talk about what it was like, who some of these players were. And a lot of those guys that you hear about that made that dream team, you hear that they were dogs. And when you hear that word dogs, it's like they went after the thing. Magic was a dog. Barkley, a dog. Jordan, a dog. Like they go after it and they don't stop. Birds the same way. They don't stop until they win. They are so highly competitive that it did not matter who stepped on that court in there. You were not going to get anywhere close to 20 on these guys. They were going to blow you out. That's the mentality you need to have going into there. This is for the gold. This is to support your entire, the United States. You go in there and you just play your heart out and you obliterate that team. It doesn't matter. That's what they did, and they didn't give a damn if they did entertain or not. It was get the game over with. We're getting out of here. Boom, we're done.
See, and that's what I think too. But I think today with the basketball especially, I think a lot of these guys, and yeah, you could say okay, and we'll use LeBron as an example. That's not his first gold medal. I get it. So maybe this one doesn't mean as much as the last one did. You know what I'm saying? But to your point, it's not even really about the Olympics for these guys. I don't think. I think it's just I took part. We won. It was
Yeah.
cool. Got to go to another country. And yeah, the games were closer than they probably should have been, but that's the way it goes. But hey, we got the gold. It's not about going out there and you're supposed to be the best this country has to offer, the best, the very best. And if you don't think, even though you've got NBA players from other countries, going back and representing their countries, if you don't fully believe that they still have the U.S. as this, we'd love to put you underneath the ground and bury you just to show where we're at now as a competitive team, a country, then you're kidding yourself because they are. The U.S. is the team you still want to annihilate, and they're going to get their best shot. And they don't see this. They don't care. And it's just sad because, like you said, but this is the Olympics. You're supposed to at least show up, show out, and represent your country. I mean, you put in all this work, at least some kind of effort to get, be placed on the team. Don't you care enough to go out and, I mean, how are you trailing in these games? Is as bad as you are.
Well,
I
see,
mean, you're down 17.
that's the thing, and that's why some of these other countries are going to come in each year and they're going to become better
Yeah,
because they play exactly for the love of the game. They
to
put their
win.
heart to win. They're playing for their
Yes.
country, so they're going out there and putting it all out there, laying it out on the line, and trying to come back with the gold. And good for them. That's what they should be doing. I'm sorry, but it's no longer U.S. Running away with this anymore. It's not going to happen unless these
Yeah.
guys really want to go out there and really start playing. But then this goes back to what we're talking about when it comes to why even outside of this, not even talking about the Olympics anymore, just get into the regular sport itself. Some of these guys that are signing contracts that may not even
Yeah.
deserve that money, some of these guys that are signing contracts and going to just even a worse team just to make that money. It's like at some point it's like, so now it's like, is winning even a priority to some of these guys anymore?
Well, not only that, Jim, and real quick, just back to the Olympics. When you brought up Tyreek Hill earlier, see, this is another thing. This is another take I have on that. So, Tyreek, when you make comments like this, that you could beat this person and that person, first of all, for me, you're disrespecting the effort that that person has put into that particular, sporting field event to be the best at what he does or she does. They all the hard work they put in to be is accomplished, medal, all these things, and you literally throw out these statements. Oh, I could beat this, but you know, before you make those statements, give us some times, go out and give us some trial runs, and at least give us an idea that you can actually show this could possibly happen. You're disrespecting this guy's not sitting there saying, I get what Tyreek does on the football field, but give me some pads. I'll go out there right now and I'll dust this dude. That's disrespecting that person's efforts and what they're trying to put into what is technically their job, and just making statements like that. I think that's disrespectful. You can't do stuff like that. But again, back to your point, but again, we get into these situations where the guys are taking contracts, just to make the dollar. They don't care about winning, but get mine. And it's just like with Paul George, doesn't really care, does not care. His words, I really don't care if, I win a championship. That's sad. That's sad. You have that talent skill, that level of talent, and you really just don't care. And I know you've had the
I
injuries, but it really doesn't matter to you.
I
Then
mean,
why don't you just quit?
it gets to a point, and that's kind of what it's you start thinking about, right? Is maybe he is really ready to retire. Maybe it just really is the end. So maybe you go back home, or you start making that, excuse me, that last trip around and say, okay, this could be it for me. I get it, but at the same time, you still want to try to be competitive. You still want to be, I get it. He's had a rough year. I mean, a rough career as far as just not being able to get over that hump, right? I love Paul George though. I mean, I loved him in Indiana. He had a great series against LeBron. I mean, he went toe to toe with LeBron James, and he tried his hardest to get through them, but he had to deal with some injuries too in his career and stuff like that. But he's definitely a great ball player, legendary. He's Hall of Famer, obviously for sure. But I get it. You want to stay competitive. You want to try to go and make try to get a ring at least before you go, because there's a lot of great players out there that we talk about all the time that don't have that didn't get one. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if you have a chance and you could still do it, you could still play at a high level right now. Try to go get that. You don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be a Carl Malone or a Charles Barkley that just, you know, they played hard. Those guys played hard every single time they were out there, and they just couldn't win. They just ran into Jordan each time. Where Paul, if you have a chance to go get this, go now, go win it. I mean,
Yeah.
you have a chance in the East. You definitely have a chance to get there to the finals and stuff like that. The West is competitive for sure, but the East isn't as. I mean, you're gonna run into Boston. That's getting Boston, Milwaukee are gonna be your main ones. So if you can get over that hump, and you got some other players that can help you, Maxi's good over there, Embiid is good. As long as Embiid stays healthy, I mean, they could be a dynamic trio there with those three.
Well, and really, I mean, if you look at that, I mean, there's not a whole lot of teams in the East really anymore to really say a whole lot. I mean, Milwaukee's in part because of age is falling off drastically, I think. I mean, it's just not, I mean, it's going to be hard for them to really make a push, I think. And obviously, injuries play a part. If the Celtics stay healthy for the entire season, then it's really it's a no-brainer that the Celtics will probably be in the finals again next year, like you talk about, with the potential to build a dynasty, in part off of motivation, from being snubbed and stuff like that, but just as a unit. And now you have your chance. This is like you and I talk about. Why is this not important to you? You've won one. Why do you not want to win a second one? Then I go back to Denver with this. We talked about this last week, and just real quick, all these opportunities right in front of you, right in front of you. Keep your core unit together, build off of it, make everybody happy, and let's try to win at least one more, maybe two, get three here.
Yeah.
But they don't do that anymore. They just let people go. And so I think with the Celtics, there's a shot right there. And like you said, the motivation will be there with your two best players, and they got Porzingis there too. So that's another. I mean, they got some weapons with this team. And so, for the Philadelphias and stuff like that, there's not a whole lot. Cleveland's a good ball club. Orlando's building a little bit of steam, but there are very few teams that are to challenge the Celtics if they're focused and they're healthy.
Yeah,
So it's going to be
definitely.
tough for them. But real quick, and just one more thing on Tyreek. To me, this is a guy with a world of talent, but he spends more time talking than he does worrying about what he does on the football field. Quit talking about, you're the best, you're the best player in the NFL. I don't care who votes for you, but don't add fuel to it. Just say, hey, that's cool. I appreciate it. Got to move on. Now, yeah, I think I probably am the best player in the football in the NFL. Just move on. Shut your mouth and move on. And don't worry about, taking on track athletes who, I guarantee you, if you do this, you're going to regret. This dude will dust your ass. He will dust your ass just to prove a point. So, Tyreek, focus on what's really important. Come on, dude. Come on, man.
Come on, man. Wow, you hit him with the come on, man.
Tyreek's not on my Christmas
Hey,
list, but
I mean, that list was, it was different. I mean, the fact that even Mahomes didn't make top three is kind of insane. I mean,
hey,
what does he got to do? Like, I'm not a huge Mahomes fan. Obviously, like, I mean, I got my Bronco stuff on, right? Obviously, I'm not a Chiefs fan, or whatever, but what does the guy got to do?
hey, what can a guy not do? I sent you, and I know, folks, you've seen this behind the back pass. Now he says it's because he was upset with Kelsey. I'm hearing some other stories about this was something that had developed. They actually planned this, so I don't know what's what.
All,
But
all I know is
game situation and he makes that toss and it still picks up yardage, that's crazy. That's just crazy.
All I'm gonna say is, if I'm putting a team together and it's a full draft, I got the first pick, and I'm doing. There's no
Patrick's your
way
boy.
it's 10 times out of 10. I'm taking Mahomes over Hill, guaranteed. I mean, I'm not taking
Try
I'm not
100 out of
taking
100.
Tyreek Hill before Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry, okay?
No.
I mean, first pick, I'm going. It probably. I mean, I'm probably thinking him or Allen. I mean, I'm a huge Josh Allen fan. So, man,
Yeah.
those are you got to start your team off with a quarterback, right? So somewhere. So, I it's probably Mahomes or Allen for me. That's probably where I'm going at that point. But
Hey, Allen is the
I'm definitely not taking Tyreek Hill over Mahomes. I mean, never.
hey
Not right
Allen
now.
Allen is the sleeper MVP pick for the 24 season.
Hey, he could.
Which
He
I'm curious
could.
about. I
Yeah.
told you about. I don't like what they have at coach. I think that's a huge
McDermott
drawback.
needs. This is the year to prove, and this is why I'm saying this is the year to prove for these guys, is because Diggs is gone now. Apparently, Diggs did not like being there. It seemed like he was
Yeah.
more Allen having to force more to Diggs. He wanted the ball more, so it was get
Mhm.
Diggs, get Diggs his touches. If not, he's going to be upset. Whatever. However they want to play it off, I don't care. Listening to them talk about it. Oh, we're going to miss him. Now, forget about it. We know exactly what he's talking about. Diggs need to get out of there. I think it's going to open up a lot more for Allen to be able to just pass. Just whoever's open, hit him. I think he's going to spread the ball out a lot more. It's going to open up him to be able to run more himself. And so that could be it. He could become, because he's probably going to rush for a lot of yards. He's probably going to get a lot of rushing touchdowns. He's probably going to throw for a lot of touchdowns. Buffalo
Well,
is
hey,
very, very interesting this year.
see, that's why I wanted to ask you that real quick. Obviously, we're at the back end of preseason. Football starts in 2 weeks, so yeah, we can do it next week. I'm just wanting to ask Anthony real quick, folks. Just a quick thought on who you think is the front runner for each division, title wise. You think the Jets can really? I know Miami's there. You think the Jets have anything at all that can bump Buffalo out of the top spot with that division?
Oh, that division is wide open. Other than New England, I mean, it's
The New England.
other than New. I mean, you got to think about the three quarterbacks. Three quarterbacks are very, very good. Tua, Aaron, and Josh, right? Obviously, if you rank them
Yeah.
out, so let's just try to put it this way then. So you're ranking them out of the three. I guess I'm going to have to go Allen 1. I'm probably going Tua 2 and Rogers 3, only because Rogers is coming off of an injury, an Achilles at
Yeah.
his age. This isn't the same Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it could be. We don't know that. But I'm not going to sit here. I can't put him over Tua. The way Tua played last year, as good as he was, he got to the playoffs, guys. And don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying that Kansas City wasn't. Kansas City is a great team. They lost to a great team. They played in terrible cold weather. So, they get a pass for that. It just Kansas City was a better team that day. So, for
Yeah.
me, Tua's better than Aaron Rodgers right now. Okay, I'm not sitting here saying it's all time, but we're talking about right now. Aaron, so the nod to that goes to Buffalo. Run game, I love Miami's run game. I love what they have with A Chain and Mostert. Brees Hall's very, very good. With the Jets, and then is it who actually is the running back in Buffalo right now? Do you know off the top of your head?
Uh, Gosh, I'm drawing a blank.
I'm gonna look right now. We'll see here, and I'll tell you. Oh yes, yeah. Oh, it's James Cook. It is James Cook still. So I like James Cook.
Okay.
So I like Miami. So actually, I'd probably put Miami, the Jets, and then Buffalo run game. Wide receiving, man, that wide receiving core is crazy. For Miami, right? Obviously,
Yeah, it is. It's good.
Waddle and Hill. I mean, there's nothing better. I like Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's really, really good, but he doesn't. He's not better than Waddle and Hill, and obviously in Buffalo, we don't know yet. I mean, they got Curtis Samuel there, so I you got to give that to Miami. So that shows you just on offense a little bit right there how wide open it is. Miami's got some good one. Buffalo, it's back and forth. It's all about the defenses on top of that, but all three of them have very good defenses too, right? I think the
Yeah.
Jets are probably the best defense out of the three. Then probably Miami, then Buffalo. So if I had to think, I could probably say yes, the Jets could probably win the division. If I had to pick out of that one, I'm probably gonna go with the better quarterback in that division because the quarterback has a better chance of winning the games more often. So I'm probably gonna go Buffalo. I think Buffalo, and I think Miami's gonna surprise some people. I really think they are. I think the Jets probably do finish third. It's crazy to say that, and I think a lot of people have the Jets really high because of Aaron Rodgers. But I'm getting sick and tired of this Aaron Rodgers thing. Okay, until you can show me and prove to me that you're back to where you were and that you were that one, that you're that guy again, that bad man that Stephen A. Smith calls you. I'm not ready to give you anything yet. You got to show it to me. So in that division, I'm going to go with probably Buffalo still.
Not to beat a dead horse here. We talked about this last week with this guy, Aaron Rodgers. But here's my thing. Okay, you have one Super Bowl in your entire career. You're not going this year. Regardless, you're not. You're not going. You might win the division. You're not going to the Super Bowl. But here's my thing. And this happened last year, and it happened with Green Bay too. Dude, I mean, at some point, you have to, and I don't care about, practice scrimmages. I get it. But at some point, you have to get out on a football field and you have to involve yourself in game situations. And this dude never does this. And people say, oh, well, Mike, Anthony, come on, look at what he does on the field. I don't give a crap. You're talking about week 1, week 2, week 3, where you really need to have some type of synchronization with these people to be more productive. And you don't have this. You don't. I'm not talking about just Aaron Rodgers. It's any of these teams. And this is one of my criticisms about preseason, how we don't have the starters out there doing anything anymore half the time. Rookies out there, Caleb Williams, he doesn't need to play. He already knows we're going to go with it. You can't be doing this.
How much criticism did Peyton Manning have before he finally won a Super Bowl? That he was terrible in the playoffs and that. What kind of criticism did Elway get for not winning in the Super Bowl? He's never going to get one, all this and that, right? But yet we praise Aaron Rodgers for playing, 18, 19 years now, and he has one Super Bowl? One Super Bowl and one appearance. That's it.
Yeah. And he's like some Buddha of quarterbacks.
So you're telling me, that's what I'm saying. Talking about? I was a big fan. When Rodgers came out from Cal, I loved him. Yeah. I loved watching him. I thought that, it was time that, I thought that they waited a little too long to put Rodgers in, but when he finally got in, he obviously proved how good he was. But it's like after a certain point in time, it's like we got to stop sitting here saying that he's so great, because when is he hasn't even gotten to another Super Bowl. He hasn't even been, I can sit here and say the same, yes, we can sit here and say Aaron Rodgers is tremendous if he's been to 3 or 4 Super Bowls, but he just lost them, right? Like if he's got one, but he went to 3 or 4. Okay, well, you know what? He's gotten there. He's really trying hard. At least he got there. He's only been to 1. So why are we sitting here praising this like he's amazing?
Hey, I got to bring this up real quick. This is not really off. It is kind of off subject, but it still talks about quarterbacks. I meant to talk to you about this during the week. I saw this article. This is for Alabama, right? History of the Alabama quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. We've talked about it. You're a big Bama fan. So you kind of know. And I know how you feel about this guy. And he never comes up in the history of Alabama QBs. But you bring him up in conversation. And I'm pretty sure you brought him up during one of our podcasts, if not several. So this particular poll was best QBs in Bama history. You got Stabler, you got Namath. I think Mac Jones was on there, and 1 or 2 others. Guess who's left off this list? Bart Starr.
Oh, really?
Not even on the list. Not even offered consideration. Just left off the list.
I wonder why that is.
And I'm like, okay, I understand. Okay, I'm not saying Bart Starr was legendary Bama quarterback. He wasn't all-world in the rankings of college QBs at the time, but he was a solid freaking quarterback.
He still got more Super Bowls than Favre and Rodgers.
Transitions to the NFL, and look what he does with it. And we're not even talking just Super Bowls. We're talking about what happened when it was just an NFL championship.
Absolutely.
And what this guy was doing with the Packers. But he was not even listed for consideration in the history of Bama quarterbacks. And I'm like, you're telling me Joe Namath is better than Bart Starr. No, he's not.
Well, and that's
And
the
I know
thing is,
people.
and that's the thing is,
I
though,
know.
Bama for a while there, they weren't known for quarterbacks, right?
No, they
And they
weren't.
have
They were
kind of
garbage.
they made a little bit of a turn. They made a
Yeah.
turn for sure, you know. And you know, Jalen Milroe has a chance also to be maybe a starting quarterback in the NFL too, here in the next couple of years.
And
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 so
and and I get
Bryce
it.
is in there. I mean, Mac hasn't looked great though. I mean, and I get it,
No.
which is really surprising considering the year he had, the year that they won. I mean, they couldn't be stopped that year. I mean, they went in there
Yeah.
and they destroyed Ohio State in that national championship. I mean, what was it, like 52 to like 30 or something, I mean,
Yeah, it
they
was a
killed
beatdown.
them. And so to
Yeah,
sit
it was a
there and say
beatdown.
that Mac, you know, couldn't transition and come to it, you know, at first I thought maybe it was just a New England thing. Maybe just Belichick. He wasn't a good fit there. Obviously, he had the same time that Patricia is trying to be an offensive coordinator when he's really a defensive coordinator. I get that there was all this stuff going on. But then even watching him in Jacksonville, he just looks lost, which is really surprising because you don't find that Bama players are really completely lost like that, being that, you know, he was coached by Saban.
Yeah. Hey, so what are you thinking? Texans,
So
Jags,
yeah, oh yeah, so going
Colts?
in, so we'll go to the South then. So, oh, you know, I'm huge on Houston. I mean,
Yeah.
sky's the limit for that team, right? I mean, you got you
Mhm.
know, you got sophomore years for not just Stroud but also for D'Amico as a coach. Loved what they did. Loved the offseason moves. They got Diggs in there. Now, for me, I'm sitting here thinking. So obviously, I told you before we got on, I had a fantasy draft. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, how am I going to draft here? Where am I? You know, some of these players I go, and man, that receiving core in Houston is just ridiculous, right? With Tank Dell, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs. I was happy to see though in the rankings that Nico was higher than Stephon. I kind of thought people might give Stephon Diggs more of a higher rankings than that, and I love to see that Nico's higher because I do think that Nico deserves to be the number one wide receiver in Houston.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I
I don't
agree.
really care what Diggs has to say. I think Nico is well deserved of that spot there. They got a great team. They got a great
But
tight end too with Schultz. I love, and I think they have, in my opinion, an underrated defense too.
oh yeah, they do. But here's the thing too. You talked about Diggs, and you brought it up earlier with Buffalo. What Houston can't afford to have happen, and I don't think they will. I think D'Amico's a little bit more strict about that. I mean, granted, the coaching staff in Buffalo is pretty solid as far as like trying to be strict, but Diggs is Diggs. But I think they can't allow Diggs to come in and sort of try to undermine anything. Get me the ball, especially with Stroud, who's still young kid, still learning the game, had a great season last year. I mean, solid, I mean, off the charts, ready to build on that. Can't have Diggs come in and just, screw this and
Well,
try to
and
wash it down
see,
the drain.
that's for me. For me right now, I would be sitting here say I'd be telling most people because it's sophomore year. I mean, for Stroud, I'd be telling people pump the brakes. Let's not be on. But
Yes.
there's something about Stroud that I really like.
Yeah.
You know me,
That's a different level
I'm
kid.
never high on young quarterbacks ever. I'm not, whether it comes to fantasy, whether it's just real life football. I'm not a huge fan. But watching that guy at Ohio State, when I knew he was coming, I said there's something special about him. He is going to be very good, and I still feel the same way.
Yeah.
I'm not saying pump the brakes. I'm saying push on the gas and go with this because not only did you add Diggs, you have you got Nico. You're gonna have Tank back. You also added a great running back in Mixon, which I was so surprised
Yeah.
about this. I don't
I was too.
understand why Joe Mixon is no longer with the Bengals. I do not understand. You know, obviously, I'm sure that there's reasons behind it as far as maybe he wasn't happy there no more, or they just didn't have cap space, things like that. But holy crap, how do you let Joe Mixon go? And now he's with Houston. Great run game. So this is going to open up so much, right? Because there's so many options for Stroud to throw to. Like I said, the three wide receivers plus Schultz as a great tight end. Now you have to worry about Mixon in the backfield. I mean, play action's crazy. He can run when he needs to. I mean, there that offense, if ran right and D'Amico does well, they could be very good. And I'm talking like greatest show on turf, good type stuff with
Oh,
them.
I'm thinking you
Um,
could be talking 13 wins, 12 wins
yeah,
type
and
thing.
don't and I'm not sitting here saying that Mixon's going to be Falk because there's nobody that can do that. But well, with the talent with the talent around them, with how good Stroud is, I think they're going to be good. I think they may just run away with this division, to be honest with you. I don't see it. The key here, though, is Anthony Richardson's coming back for Indy,
Yeah.
right? What does he do? I think he showed a lot of people that he can be a big playmaker. Obviously got hurt early, but he showed signs that he could be that guy. I think that helps Indy a lot. Do we know who this hurts? This hurts Jacksonville. And Trevor Lawrence needs to figure it out in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Holy crap, does he need to figure it out? Terrible season last year. Jacksonville should have been, better than what they were supposed to be. They are not. I think Jacksonville's third in this division. Obviously, the Titans would be last. I know they had they added, Ridley and stuff, but Levis I'm not high on yet. He needs to prove to me a little bit more as to what they can do. Obviously, losing Henry is huge for the Titans too this year. So what does that say about Taraji Spears? I believe is taking the role as the running back there for them. So I mean that it's not Henry though. So you can't sit here, guys, in Tennessee and give Spears the ball, 500 times in the year. He doesn't work that way. He's not that catalyst. So Levis is going to have to throw more. He's going to have to figure it out right away. But I don't think Tennessee's is going to be great. Jacksonville will be okay. I think Indy does overthrow him. I think Richardson does actually look better. Jonathan Taylor's healthy. Michael Pittman Jr. is there. I think Richardson and Pittman will have a good year together with each other. Indianapolis's defense isn't terrible either. I think they're just, middle of the pack there. So that's going to help out Richardson a lot too. So obviously, I think Houston runs with it in that one. Indy will be, second, and then Jacksonville and Tennessee in that one.
Yeah, I watched. It was our last. I think it was a game last week with the Colts, and I didn't catch the whole game, but I did see quite a bit of Richardson play, and I was surprised that he looked pretty rough.
Be good.
Now again, you're talking about coming off the injury. Rust is there, but I was not impressed with some of the decision making by the kid. Particularly in preseason, when you're not playing against, their best offerings. But we'll see what happens. He showed a lot of promise last year prior to the injury. I think he's a solid quarterback, and I agree with you, but I think it can be run. I think it's a competitive division. I even think the Titans can be competitive. I do like what they have at quarterback, so we'll see how he continues.
I don't like their defense. I don't think their defense can make
them that too
at all. I mean, it's really all about Levis, right? There's a lot of up and coming young quarterbacks right now and stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of them that have to prove a lot right now, and this is the time, right? Because it's not just these sophomore ones too, or the 3 years in. There's other quarterbacks that are. Caleb Williams has to prove that he could do something in Chicago. Yeah. There's people out here talking about Chicago making it to the Super Bowl. What, Nick Wright out here thinking that Caleb can take him to the Super Bowl? I hope.
I'm gonna get into that real quick and just.
I sure hope that is not right. I don't see it happening, but Jaden Daniels, right? Jaden Daniels, he's the one guy that I thought was the best quarterback in this draft, right? He's going to be starting for Washington. I sure hope he shows up, Caleb, and is a better quarterback out of everybody else. But also the other person that's starting to turn some heads too is Bo Nix. Bo Nix is out here, right? Turning heads for some people. There's a lot of people out here that are thinking that maybe Peyton may have found the guy here, right? Obviously, Bo has been named the starter. First time since '83 when who was the starter? Elway. First time is going to be a rookie start.
Yeah.
It's a
people got to put the brakes on these
I think it's a good start for it, but we need to relax. It's like I said, that's why I'm saying for me, guys, I'm like pump the brakes unless you're a CJ Stroud, right?
Yeah,
that's a different story. He's a different type of person, and
he's a real deal.
But yeah, I think the Houston will kind of run away with that division. I don't think it'll be.
I think so too, but I think if they stay healthy, 13 wins, 12 wins for sure.
Yeah.
Going over to now
the North.
I don't know what's going on with Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with the Steelers. Fields has looked okay. Russ has had the injury. Russ came back from the injury. It looked pretty bad in his preseason game. Tomlin continues to say that Russ is our guy to start, but I don't know how much I buy into that. But if you put that all aside, look at the division these guys are in. I mean, here you got Lamar coming in. He lost a lot of weight. Apparently, he looks pretty solid. The Ravens obviously adding, what they've added, everything. So I just, from what you see on paper, what you see, with what they have to put on the field right now. It's the Ravens look pretty solid. We talked about this. If Lamar does have any type of injuries, you're going to have a solid running game to really back that up right now. If they got to bring in somebody to back him up for a series, so they've got a solid backup quarterback. Obviously, Joe's coming back. Looking like Ken from the Barbie movie. With the gold hair now, it looks good. I'm not knocking on you, Joe. I love you, Joe. I love you. Bad boy Joe to me, folks. I love Joe. Anthony knows how I feel about Joe. Um, I don't know where the Pittsburgh Steelers fit in all this. I thought they might be a little bit better at this point, even in the preseason, but they just look like they might have some problems. I'm not really seeing it a whole lot, and Deshaun Watson needs to go. Dude needs to go. You folks, you screwed that up so bad. Man, dropping $1 billion on this guy, I exaggerate, but you wasted a lot of money to get this guy, and I think it's going to blow up in your face this season. I really do. Cleveland is going to drop off the planet, and that's too bad because you're going to waste a good defense on this type of thing. You really are. I think the Ravens
Well,
could not run away with it, but I think come week 12, it's probably going to be locked up or close to it.
well, here's the thing. So, I've always told you this about this division, and I still stand strong on this because these teams still are all pretty decently good, but they're all good in their own ways, and I'm going to get to that here the way I'm putting it. But anytime these teams face off in the division, doesn't matter who it is, if it's Pittsburgh playing Baltimore, if it's Cincinnati playing Cleveland playing Baltimore, whatever it may be, they just beat the
It's
hell
a
out of
slobber
each other.
knocker.
They just kick the heck out of each other.
Yeah, it's a slobber knocker.
There's a lot of additions coming back in this division.
Yeah,
Burrow is back in Cincy.
but can he stay healthy?
Henry is now in Baltimore. Those are the two biggest additions to this division right now. Now the thing is what does Baltimore do with Henry, and what does Burrow do for the season? Because if Burrow is Burrow, if he's Bad Boy Joe, Cincinnati can easily fight for this division.
Look at their receiving core.
They easily fight for it because if it's Joe, I had to watch Joe kill Bama. Okay, I know what he can do.
Yeah.
So if he's the same guy, they're going to be competitive. They are. And the thing is they got to get a little bit of a running game established though. Losing Mixon is going to hurt. So they have to run it because if not, they're going to sit on that pass to Joe all day, and it's just going to be Higgins and Chase, right? So they got to figure that part out. Baltimore is great. Obviously, Baltimore can be a Super Bowl contender. I agree.
And again,
Defense
Lamar coming in a
is
lot lighter.
insane. I think defense is by far the best defense in the league. They're number one.
Well, I'm curious about that, Bob, because real quick, you and I both know they lost their defensive coordinator. I don't think it'll be as impactful as people think.
The talent, though.
Yeah, I think it overrides
the
it.
talent, though, is so good there.
Yeah, I think so.
It's ridiculous. But Lamar, it's all about what he can do, right? How well he plays. It goes back to that again. Like I mentioned in the East, quarterback play. Who has the better quarterback play? That's why I'm saying if Joe is Joe, he's gonna fight for this division because
he's
the best quarterback in that division, no matter what.
Let me ask you this real quick, because I haven't heard anything mentioned about this. Maybe you have. You correct me if I'm wrong here, but I've been curious about this. We've talked, and you know how I feel. A lot of people, you know how I feel about Lamar Jackson. Anthony knows exactly how I feel. I did a lot for the fact that he was the MVP last year. He deserved it, even though it's hard for me to admit, because I still think sometimes he's limited in certain aspects. But here's my question to you, bud. You and I both know, if you win one MVP as a quarterback, then there's pressure on you going forward. You are expected to do great things off of one MVP, provided the talent is there for you to work with. So now you've won 2 MVPs, and you've got all this talent around you. So how much pressure, and Lamar's never going to admit to this, but let's get real here. How much pressure is on you with 2 MVPs to get to the Super Bowl? There's nothing below that now. It's not getting back to the AFC Championship game. That's not enough. It's not winning a third MVP. That's not enough. You have to make it to the Super Bowl, I believe, this year. And I'm telling you, there's a kid in Houston right now that's ready to usurp where you're at, and he's ready to challenge Patrick to get to that next step. But how much pressure do you think is? I think there's a lot of pressure on Lamar. I really do.
Well, yeah, there's tremendous pressure for Lamar, definitely,
And can he match that
get it.
pressure? Can he?
Um, the problem is like we were just talking about. There's so much competition right now in the West that
Yeah.
he's going up against. He's basically kind of like '83 in a way, right? Where Elway, Marino, Kelly, there's so many good quarterbacks on the league at one time that you keep running into these people, right? You're running into, they ran into Montana, and you know, you run into these quarterbacks and stuff that are really good, and you're just in that time frame where it's just like, well, you know what, Lamar is great, but there's somebody better. You know, it's just we were just talking about this before we got on. Guys like that were great, that were dogs that tried to play hard, but they never won. The Barkleys, the Malone. Why? Because they ran into Jordan. Same thing with Lamar.
Yeah.
I'm running into Mahomes. Allen. Why can't you get there? Because I ran into Mahomes. There's just somebody better, unfortunately, right now for him. But there's tons of pressure. He needs to get there at least, right? For me, there's
that's what I believe.
because even you think about somebody like a Marino, right? Marino only went to one, right? But he got there at least. That's why. I mean, we still consider him one of the greatest to ever do this because, and it's not because he has all these rings. It's because he did get there at least, but it was other things he did. And like you said, Lamar doesn't do some of these things well. He doesn't throw the ball tremendously well, but he's gotten a little bit better. He's not running as much as he once was, but when he has to, he is. He seems to be making a little bit better decisions. He's getting a little bit better talent around him.
Stays in the pocket
that's
more.
helping him. I think getting Henry House more, not just in the sense of taking away from him running and then letting him run, but also if that pass rush comes in, there's another blocker, somebody big enough to take on somebody else that comes through, right? So that's going to help him stay in the pocket more, better pocket presence. And then when they don't want to run or throw the ball and he doesn't need to, it's handed off to Henry. Take it off. So Baltimore can be very scary, right? I'm with you. But so can Cincinnati if there's a strong Joe Burrow, right? Pittsburgh, I cannot. I'm sorry, but I won't do it. I'm never putting Pittsburgh out until Tomlin's gone, until he no longer has a job in Pittsburgh. The guy is above 500 or a 500 record every year and makes the playoffs, okay? He finds a way to just get in. He's just so damn good at what he does with whatever he has left. Whether it's Roethlisberger as a rookie, Roethlisberger on his last leg, or if it's Justin Fields and Russell Wilson taking back, each series of snaps for the rest of the season, whatever it may be, he's going to figure it out. Pittsburgh has a great defense, okay? I feel like Pittsburgh has a chance to kind of maybe be, and not as good because that defense is, I don't think Pittsburgh defense is great, but that 2015 run that the Broncos had with Peyton. Peyton wasn't Peyton, right, in his last year. But Russ could be Russ a little bit. Russ didn't show he was terrible in Denver as far as like making the terrible mistakes or just obviously just throwing the games like terrible like that. We weren't good in Denver as a whole. If you could just have what Peyton did here and as good as that defense could possibly be in Pittsburgh, Tomlin being a defensive-minded coach, maybe he focuses more on we just try to shut down everybody, bring back the old steel curtain type defense, and just let Rush try to just manage the game with Pickens and with, they got Najee Harris, they got Jalen Warren to run the ball. Just shorten the game, not shorten it, but basically take your time each time you're out there. Use the clock management. Let the defense, score for you. Pittsburgh can do that. Cleveland now, I kind of agree with you. I think Cleveland's on the decline myself. Unless Deshaun figures out something and whatever. If he can figure it out, Cleveland could be crazy good too, right? They added Judy. They have Cooper. Now, I know Chubb's out the beginning of the season, but they have Jerome Ford, who's showed he's capable of, being able to carry the load, and Njoku's a very good tight end. That defense is great in Cleveland too. Myles Garrett's insane. So if Deshaun figures it out, Cleveland could still be good. Anybody in that division could be great. Baltimore's the better team. Right now, if I'm putting it in order, just because I don't know what Joe we're seeing yet, Baltimore's number 1 for sure for me. I'm going Cincy 2, Pittsburgh 3, Cleveland 4. That's what I'm going for right
exactly,
now. Before, anything I've seen, that's where I'm at with the division.
Yeah, and real quick, with Russ, I'm hearing statements this week, from people on different, platforms, obviously on, the ESPNs and those type of things, and other sports shows, that I guess Russ isn't showing what they feel is a commitment to being his best, so to speak, which I have concerns about. And maybe Russ just isn't at that point in his career anymore, where maybe ultimately it's just not as important as he's trying to make it out to be. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But Tomlin
maybe it comes
is
back
the
to the
difference
whole
with
money
Pittsburgh
thing that we were just talking about with athletes again. Did he get his, he got his paycheck and maybe just kind of riding down to the sunset with,
Yeah, I agree with you though. 2-team race, Cincinnati and obviously Baltimore, Cleveland. If Deshaun's a wild card,
think about Russ. What more does he have to prove to anybody else? We were just talking about.
He doesn't.
We were just talking about Lamar, that to prove that he's good, he has to get to a Super Bowl. Russ has already won Super Bowls. Right? Or,
yeah,
well, got one.
This,
no, Russ only, does he have one or does he have 2? How many does Russ have? 1, right? That's it.
Well, he has 2 appearances. He has one win. He beat Denver and lost to
he has a Super Bowl, regardless. He has a Super Bowl ring, okay? He's been there twice, okay? He was the man in Seattle. He's the greatest quarterback, I think, in Seattle history. I mean, I don't even think it's close. Maybe Zorn. But
yeah, no, I give it to Russ.
Warren Moon had a time frame
and
there,
Dave
but
Krieg
it's not. But it wasn't better. Nobody was better than Seattle. He brought
No.
Seattle a Super Bowl, so you can't say anybody's better. You know what I mean? In a way, but what if to him maybe it's just I got my money, I got my pay. He doesn't have to do anything for that. He doesn't have to do anything anymore. He has nothing left to prove.
The last thing I'll say about Russ, because you and I both agree Cincinnati, Baltimore should be the teams, duking it out. We'll see what happens with Cleveland. But the last thing I'll say about Russ, and we've talked about this too, and I actually was on one side of the fence, but here recently I see this guy getting dumped on left and right. I'm talking about Russ, folks, that he never had anything. They basically make it sound like the guy never had anything to do, didn't contribute anything to Seattle winning a Super Bowl or getting to back-to-back Super Bowls. And I'm sorry, folks, defenses help you win Super Bowls. They don't win Super Bowls. Defense does not win you the championship. They don't, unless they're scoring all the points, they're not winning the game, okay? They're contributing to it. You got to have but Russ contributed at least in part, for crying out loud, people. I mean, you're making it sound like the guy wasn't even on the team half the time anymore, and that's wrong.
Well, and you know what? This is kind of crazy when you think about it, and if I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, but tell me this Baltimore team this year doesn't kind of remind you of the 2012, 2011 Seattle team. Defense is tremendous. Yeah. You got a guy that can throw in the pocket but also run with Lamar.
Yeah.
You got Derrick Henry, who's a power runner just like Lynch, but also the other thing that people don't consider is the wide receivers for Seattle back then with Russ were not superstar. They're not the Justin Jeffersons, the Jamar Chases, the Devontae Adams. He had Lockett, he had Percy Harvin, I believe. He had Doug Baldwin. These guys weren't superstars. So Golden Tate, I believe, was in them at one point. So it's like Russ did a lot of. He did great with the wide receivers that he had. Same thing with Baltimore. Zay Flowers, you know what I mean? He had who else is Odell is still with them, I believe. So he doesn't have tremendous wide receivers either. So this Baltimore team kind of makes you think about those old Seattle teams. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe this is Russ's or Lamar's time to kind of show. Maybe this is it. Maybe it might be. It might be Baltimore's time. It very well could be. And then we go to the West.
So Anybody.
Kansas City will not lose a game in the West. They'll just kill everybody. It doesn't matter. Nobody else in the West will make the playoffs either. So Jim Harbaugh is going to get fired, I hope, and never sees the NFL field again.
Okay, I gotta say, the bud knows where I'm gonna go with this because we talk about Denver quite a bit away from the camera. And he just talked about this, and he mentioned Caleb. He also brought up Denver, folks. And I was a big Denver Bronco fan. Once Elway stepped away, it kind of made, and Peyton was there. But when Elway stepped away, it was hard for me to be as enthusiastic because Elway was such a part of my growing up with the Broncos. So, but here's the thing: I know Denver is so desperate to have a guy come in and at least give them some hope. I get that. That's being a fan and hoping you just want your team to have some success.
Yeah.
Like Bud mentioned with Chicago, guys. Seriously, you got to take a serious time out in Denver. You really do. Okay, you guys, and even the media is jumping on this, which really kind of disappoints me because, Bud and I talked about this. He was drafted in a particular position in part because of what scouts saw in the guy. And I like Bo. There's nothing not to like about Bo, the person, from what I've seen and heard. Good dude, loves his wife or girlfriend or wherever he's at with that. He's got the values and all that stuff, and there's talent there. But people, come on. You're talking about 2 games, playing no defense, vanilla this, vanilla that, guys hoping to make a team or knowing they've made the team and just hoping not to get hurt until the season starts. And this guy's out there slinging balls and running for this and doing that, and that's great. That's what he's supposed to be doing. He's a first-round pick. If he can't do it against a 3rd or 4th string defense, then you got no shot. Same with Caleb. Stop it. You have got to stop. This is borderline idiocy. It really is. Come back and talk to me and Anthony 5-6 games. And like Bud said, prove it. Don't give us this preseason crap. All right. Go out, play against guys that are now playing for checks, playing for wins, playing to get to the playoffs. And then 5-6 games in, when people now have tape on you and can tell some of your tendencies, and if you're still winning, if you're still producing, then you can come back and talk to me and Anthony and say, hey, we told you this guy is the real deal. Until then, stop it. Well, Caleb is not the real deal. Bo is not the real deal until we see more. And you have not seen that from either one of these guys yet.
I have 2 different takes on both of those guys. So when we get into the North conversation, we'll talk about Caleb a little more as to what I feel about him. For me on the Knicks thing now, is I feel like he doesn't have anything.
There's potential.
Well, there's potential. He doesn't have anything to lose right now. Okay.
No.
If you think about what Bo's out there, just basically trying to get this franchise turned around, right? This is obviously, like I said, the first quarterback that's going to be starting since Elway.
And Bud, real quick, let me interject one thing and let you finish. I'm sorry. Okay, real quick. What did Bo really have to beat out to become the starting quarterback? What is he really competing against? Nothing.
Well, Stidham, I think Stidham's a good quarterback.
Stidham is a good, solid backup. But let's get real. If you put him out there as a starter, he can't get 5 wins. He can't. He can't get 5 wins with that team. I just don't see it. And so my point is this. Bo comes into a situation where Sean already had him penciled in as a starter. He throws out all the words and all the good things about, well, he's got to work for it. We'll see what happens. I get it. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, you're bringing a kid in from the Jets who sucked. You got a guy in Stidham who's a good, quality, solid backup. He got put out on the field last year because Russ just can't get the job done, and Sean hates his guts. And so Bo came into this ideal situation.
For me, I'm just like, it has to go up from here. I'm
Exactly.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So for me, I'm not. I mean, if you guys want to get here and start getting all excited, fine, whatever, do it. Like you said, it's just preseason for right now. We haven't hit anybody that that, like you said, the defenses, and not everybody's playing right now. Not everybody does play in the preseason, but at the same time, it's like, I'm fine as long as you're making decisions. And so far, after the last few quarterbacks that Denver has drafted recent, I think Bo's probably one of the better ones. I wasn't a Drew Lock fan. I didn't like watching Drew Lock. Paxton Lynch, the same thing. At least Bo has had some I like Bo because he's played in the SEC. At least, I'm not a huge fan that he was in the Pac-12 with Oregon or whatever. I mean, Oregon's Oregon, whatever. I mean, you don't get to see, you're still not going against great defenses, but he did against in the SEC. He was decent in Auburn, so I think there's good upside for sure there. Now, do I think he's going to take us to the playoffs? No. Will I hope? Do I hope he does? Yeah, he has some good weapons around him. Marvin Mims, we got Tim Patrick. Looks like him and Tim have connected a little bit. Sutton.
And they got a solid running game.
Yeah, Javonte. I love Javonte Williams. Actually, I really hope he has a great year. To be honest with you.
And their defense has a lot of upside.
The defense that's the key right there in Denver. What does the defense do? The defense has to help. Mm-hmm. Anytime you have a rookie quarterback, you have to have a pretty good defense because you don't want him out there all, you don't want to have to give him the ball, back and forth, or you got to get some turnovers, get some scores on defense, so you're not constantly forcing him to make the plays to win you the game, right? You want him to get settled in. You want him to feel comfortable in there, get better, learn from the game. That's where the defense is supposed to step in. But I don't know what kind of defense Denver's going to have this year. I'm not real big that we're going to have a great defense. But
and I'm not buying into it either.
I mean, obviously, like going back real quick, I mean, with the whole division, I mean, obviously Kansas City's going to win it. It's not even close.
If they stay healthy, yes.
I guess
I'm going to lean towards the Chargers. Again, they lost, at running back, so there's some changes going on, new coach, that type of thing. But
they didn't just lose Eckler; they lost Keenan and they lost Mike
Williams.
I know. Now
I know.
They did get that rookie, McConkley or McConkley or whatever. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Joshua Palmer. I think he could be a good number one. But I still have never been. I'm not a huge fan of Herbert.
No, I know you're not, man.
And of course, they got Harbaugh there now, who's coaching them, who I'm not a big fan of either.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think he's better than Staley for sure. No.
You know what I wonder about with the Chargers, real quick, Bud, is because we know, Harbaugh's going to come in and he's always been run oriented. He's about ball control. I don't know how that's going to transition with what you've got, obviously, at quarterback. Everybody says he's going to excel or continue to improve, so to speak. I hope he does. I like him. I know you're down on him. I get it. But I just don't know how that mix is going to play out with Harbaugh and his run-oriented, attack and things. I don't know how much that's going to fly in the NFL.
I feel like the way that Harbaugh runs his offense, he would have wanted to keep Eckler more. Like, he likes to
that surprised me.
More. Especially Mike Williams, open up the passing game for deep pass game. Keenan was, the short pass game, open up with Eckler. I thought he would have been better. Maybe he's going with a different type of a scheme. I don't know. I haven't watched any Chargers preseason myself or anything like that. Maybe he's going for a different looks there. But I guess I would have to maybe lean more towards the Chargers too, only because they do have Herbert. Herbert's a better quarterback than anything else right now. Denver probably 3, and then Las Vegas 4. I don't know what their quarterback status is. I don't know how good they're going to be. They lost Josh Jacobs. Obviously, I know they got Devontae, but still, I don't think Devontae's going to have a great year like everybody thinks. Obviously, Bowers at tight end. He has great upside. He was really good, obviously, in college, but what does he do now in the NFL? He could be great. Obviously, they needed him with the loss of Waller, that kind of, with him retiring before the season started. So I don't see it. It's all about Pierce too, right? Pierce is in his sophomore year coaching too. Well, not really sophomore, really. He's kind of rookie, right? It's really more of a rookie season,
technically, that is true. That is true.
Him. So full season for him. He's got his work cut out for him right now. At quarterback, defense obviously isn't great at all. So they got a lot of work to do, but they have good players. Crosby's obviously a top 10 defender, definitely a top 3 end for sure right now in the league. So I just don't think that they're good enough even for Denver. And that bottom between Denver and Vegas could flop either way. Chargers aren't going to be great, but Kansas City's running away with it. I mean, it's not going to be even close. I don't see any of the teams being able to. And if anything, if any of the teams have to have some sort of upside and you're picking one, it's got to be the Chargers, only because of Harbaugh and Herbert and stuff like that. That's the team that has to have the upside that could.
Yeah, and we're up against the break, but I agree with you. Kansas City runs with it. I think the only thing for Reed is to figure out how to challenge his guys within the division to stay focused, particularly when they're playing at home. But it should be a runaway. Again, with the Chargers and everything that's lost this, gained that, a lot of transition there, and I we'll see what happens. It's a runaway, and maybe Denver, and maybe it is with Minshew at quarterback with the Raiders. Who knows what they do between Denver and the Raiders, possibly for just the bottom to see where how that plays out. But yeah, it's Kansas City to run away.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna take a quick break, real quick, and then we'll come back and we're gonna talk about the run down the NFC after that. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, and now we are gonna run down our NFC predictions. Now, Mike, which one would you like to start off with?
Well, I'll tell you what. We talked about Chicago in their situation, and I just again I think Caleb needs to be talked about just a little bit more. So why don't we just jump right in? Again, maybe he does have world talent, but for all this ability and everything, and obviously what was going on with USC and the coaches and everything like that, it never seemed to play itself out like everybody expected it to. You're going to go compete for, its college championships and things like that, but it never manifested itself into that situation. So Caleb has a potential to be a good quarterback. I think he was anointed the starter before, as soon as he was drafted. Regardless of what anybody says, that's how it was going to play out. There's a world of talent there. And I think Anthony, I talked about this months ago, maybe even going back to right before the draft or right after, that Caleb was coming into a situation where if he does have the ability, there's receivers, they've got a running game, there's everything is being built around this guy to help him succeed. So he is kind of like with Bo, but maybe a little more so. Caleb might have a little bit more to work with. Obviously on his side of the ball, and defensively, Chicago's, they're going to have some things to prove, and I think the talent's there to be productive. But Chicago fans, just like with Denver fans, and again, fans are fans. You just want to win, win, win. But you got to put the brakes on, guys. Caleb, and they really haven't played him as much as I think they should have in the preseason. And I just don't think that's something you do. If he is the guy you believe is going to be the answer, then you got to give him some more reps. You can't sit him. Maybe the last game of the preseason, I get it. You don't want to save him for the start of the season, but you got to get him out there and give him the reps. And I don't know if Chicago really pushed him like they could have, just to see kind of where he's at with his reads and his progressions. We'll see. It's not enough, I don't think, to even come close. If Love is this guy, it's not enough to beat Detroit. I guarantee you that. And it's probably not enough to get past Green Bay. So the best with Minnesota's problems and now their quarterback going down. I mean, at best, Chicago is looking at third place in this division, I think, bud. Detroit's there, Green Bay, Detroit first, Green Bay second, Chicago third. Minnesota, we'll see. I mean, I'm hearing good things with Darnold. Maybe he's going to be able to do something with it. I don't know, but I would surprise me one bit if Chicago winds up in last place, at least in his rookie season. I'll just put the brakes on Chicago fans. You got to be realistic here.
Well, I got a different take on that. And what I'm saying
Okay.
is Chicago, you need to start pushing the gas, because here's the thing. You guys literally just let your last number one pick walk out the door, who I knew wasn't going to
Good
be a
point.
great
Good
pick,
point.
right? Okay, Justin Fields, I did not. I knew he wasn't. I watched him. He got that, and we brought it up. Basically, Mac Jones played against Justin Fields in that national championship game.
Yeah.
Justin Fields got exposed by Bama in that game. And I'm sure a lot of NFL teams watched that game and probably found out more about Justin and why. Then that's probably why they got rid of him, right? So here's the other thing. Not only did they go after Caleb, and not only do they think that he's this next great thing, right? Okay, you're adding all these extra things. You went and added DeAndre Swift, okay?
Yeah.
You have now went and added Keenan Allen. You now have DJ Moore on this team, okay? You have Cole Kmet. You have now a great team. You have no excuses, Caleb, okay? You're the number one pick. You're supposed to be this next generational talent. There's no excuses here. You're not going to come in and say, oh, man, I don't have a great offensive line. I don't have a great wide receiving core and my running backs, the running games. You have everything. Okay. Now the O-line, I'm not too sure about it, but I don't think they're terrible, but I don't think they're great. They're about mediocre. Okay, well, so what? A lot of these offensive lines are just about mid-grade anyways with everything. You don't get there's not like 10 to 15 teams that are just tremendous on the line, right? You only have 2 or 3 teams that have a great line. They're probably middle of the pack, which is fine then for him. So there should be no excuses as to why you don't. You just brought up a great example. McCarthy got hurt. Sam Darnold might be the starter. There's no Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. Aaron Jones is going to have to fill in that spot at the running back position. Let's see what he does there. I don't know if that helps a lot or not. I don't know if Aaron Jones is the same running back in Minnesota that he was in Green Bay. If he's not, then the Bears should be better than Minnesota, right? Now moving into Green Bay. I don't know what kind of quarterback Jordan Love's going to be. If Jordan Love's going to be that same guy we've seen in the playoffs, then guess what? Green Bay might be fighting for the division, okay? Defense is still pretty good in Green Bay. It's not great. I mean, it's middle of the pack.
Well, and they're also a really young team.
Young, but now they got Josh Jacobs in the backfield, right?
Yeah.
He's running for
Great addition.
Great addition there. Good wide receiving core with Watson, with Reed. But it all comes down to Love. That's the main guy there. What does he do? I like Green Bay. I think Green Bay does come second to Detroit. Detroit, I think, is the better team of it. I think Goff's going to play well. I think Goff's going to have a really good season. I like what Montgomery has did in that backfield. They're going to get Gibbs, too. I think that's a great two-headed monster there with Gibbs and Montgomery in the background. St. Brown, great. Sam Laporta is out there. Jameis Williamson is coming back. I think they have a great offensive core here. I think the defense is still young. They still need a lot. I hope they got better. They were pretty good last year, but I hope they did a few things out there. Aiden Hutchinson, obviously, tremendous player. I put him up there with Crosby as one of the better ends, with the Bosas and stuff too, out there. So I think Detroit still is better in this. I still think Chicago's going to be third in this division, though. I would put them third. I think they do beat out Minnesota this year, though, because I do think, I'm not going to sit here and say Caleb's great, but just to probably beat Minnesota this year, you probably ought to get like maybe 4 wins anyways. Minnesota might only be a 3-win team depending on what Darnold does. If Darnold comes out and can kind of get it going, he's got an okay team. Like I said, you did add Jones, you got Justin Jefferson, you have Hawkinson. I know Hawkinson's hurt, but he should be fine. But you have some talent around you. But at the same time, if Caleb is supposed to be this guy, he's supposed to be that, then he has no excuses. He has Keenan Allen. He has DJ Moore. He has DeAndre Swift. He has Cole Kmet. He has weapons around him. There's no reason you guys should at least not be third, okay? But I still think Detroit's the better team in this one. But in my opinion, I think if Chicago does not make the playoffs, I think it's a failed season, in my opinion, to them. They need to make the playoffs. They need to make the playoffs. You can't go and do all this extra stuff. Get rid of your number one pick. Just get rid of him like he's nothing. Do all this to go and get Caleb, on this team. Go and get the pieces that you got to add to everybody. And you're going to tell me that, oh, well, we only have a rookie quarterback. 5 wins is good enough. No way. 5 wins is not good enough. You need to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that, but I don't know. I mean, maybe Chicago makes the playoffs if they stay healthy. I don't know. I'm still kind of on the fringe on that. But I agree with you. I mean, there's a lot of expectations there. So, obviously see what happens. Detroit's the team I'm most excited about in that division because, as you know, you and I both know, we're Detroit fans and we'd like to see them get to the Super Bowl. And I think this year, I really think, San Francisco's got what they have, but I really think this could be Detroit's year to
Well,
at least
my
get
my
there. I
thing too
really
with them
do.
too is Campbell as a coach. Like I have no problems with him. He does really well. My only
Yeah,
thing is that that going for
he
fourth
makes
down,
bad
well, that
decisions.
going for fourth down decisions that he
Yeah.
decides to do a lot more of, and so I'm not a huge fan of that. I get it. There is a time and a place that you go to attempt those. You try to get the momentum back in your favor. I get there's time and places for that, but there was some times last year that it just did not make sense for him to do some of
Yeah.
those. So hopefully, and he's still young as a coach too. He's another one of those young coaches. He's just in those same type of, same areas as D'Amico and Pierce and a lot of these other coaches. There's a lot, just as many new and young quarterbacks are in. There's a lot of young and new coaches in too. So even a guy like Sean Payton, I know Payton's been a coach for years, but he left the game for a while. So last year is still new to him too. He's just got his full season back in after being gone for how many years, and so it's still
Yeah.
brand new to him too. Some of these things. So maybe hopefully Bo was a good decision for him too. But going back to Caleb, I still don't think Caleb was the best quarterback in this draft. I still think Jaden
I don't
Daniels
think so
is,
either.
but I guess time will tell. But like I said, as far
Yeah.
as how that goes, I think if the Bears do not make the playoffs after all the moves that they made, it is a failed season.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Rookie quarterback or
Like I
not,
said,
I don't
I'm
care.
still not
Rookie
convinced.
quarterback or not,
But
the hype that this kid is getting right now, the hype of this, Stroud was not getting this hype coming in here.
no,
The hype that
true.
is getting
Very true.
for him, because Stroud wasn't even the number one quarterback taken either. Bryce was the
No.
number one.
Yeah.
Stroud was two.
Well,
And look at the
and
difference between,
you
and
know,
that's hard for me to say, right? Because Stroud's Ohio State, you're talking about Bryce and Bama, but the it's night and day between the two. I mean, Bryce is a good quarterback. He's good. He's okay. He's good for Carolina. I hope he gets better. I hope they make some good moves for him. But Stroud is great right now. I mean, Houston, we're talking about them winning the division. Hopefully, maybe taking that next step. Maybe seeing an AFC championship game this year. But, that's what's saying you're going to have to go through a Baltimore. You're going to have to possibly go through a KC, maybe a Buffalo, which, you're going against an Allen, a Lamar, and a Mahomes. So that's tough. But I think he's up and ready for the challenge.
yeah. Speaking of Bryce, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's one that I specifically was one to speak with you about. So we both know the struggles that he had last year.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it his own doing, part of it the team, schemes, all those things. So a combination of problems. Somebody brought this point up this past week in an article I read, and it makes sense, that for a person who had the struggles that he had last year, why are you not putting this guy on the field at any time during the preseason to get him some reps, get him some confidence, and get him acclimated to what's going on? Because there's been changes. So why are you not doing this? This is a detriment to this kid. Are you not invested in him? Do you feel he's just not the guy? Or are you just because, and that makes sense to me again, you got to put the guy back out there and at least get him some reps, get him some field time. Let's see where he's at, how he's feeling. I think that's a huge potential setback if come start of the season, you're just going to put him right back out there and he's not even going to know aside from what they're doing, scrimmage wise in camp, where he's at and where's his head at. And so I was a little bit surprised by that too, that he had not seen 1 minute of game time this preseason.
I mean, there's a point. We're at a point now where everybody's just too afraid of getting it. I mean, What happens if you put him in there and he gets hurt? What are you supposed to do?
I
See,
see. I
see
think you
that,
got to try it.
but
I get it. I get
at
it.
that point though, you just basically you sold the house to get him up there in that number one spot. You went and got all these extra players in, and he goes down just for the backup to come in. I don't know who. I don't know. I don't even know who their backup is in Chicago now. I mean,
But but he could go down. He could be
no.
like Rodgers and
So
go down the
no.
first
Well,
series of the
okay.
season.
So that's very true too. That is very true.
You know what I'm saying?
I'd rather him go down in the regular season when the game.
No, I get it.
I get it, and I get what they're at, and I agree. I think most guys should play at least some sort of games to at least get the blood flowing again, kind of get a little bit of feel of what the game
Yeah.
plays like. The only people I would say don't matter is if you're like a quarterback that's, you know, Brady and Manning in their 17th and 18th seasons, right? It's just like you already know what goes on. You played many years. You're legend.
Exactly.
Fine. If you want to play, you don't play or whatever. I get it.
But that doesn't include
but
you,
people
Aaron.
like, you know, Burrow still after his third or fourth year, you still need to get out there in the first 2 games or so, play at least a few minutes, get a few series in.
Yeah.
Just get.
I mean,
And we're not going to do a whole lot. It's just going to be back up, throw a little screen just to get the footwork back in, a little slant
Yes.
in there, or something, you know, whatever it may be. But I need to look this up because I need to know who their backup is, because this could make a huge difference though too. We talked about like a guy like Knicks, but Knicks gets hurt or something like that, and Stidham comes in. At least Denver knows they have a decent backup, right? There's a lot of teams out here,
Yeah.
but I don't know who the backup is in Chicago.
you mean in Carolina or in Chicago?
I was going to talk about Caleb and for
Okay.
Bryce, because I was going to say like.
I'm actually not aware of who the backup in Chicago is either.
So Brett Rippon, Austin Reed, and Tyson Badgett. Oh, that's right. I forgot Badge. Yeah, so he goes down. You want any of those 3 guys filling in? Definitely not. Now Carolina, you have Andy Dalton, Jake Luton, and Jack Plummer. Now I wonder if Jack Plummer's related to. Is that
Andy Dalton is still there, huh?
Is that Jake Plummer's son?
No, I don't know. But the Dalton backup situation, obviously he's got a lot of years on him.
But
See.
think about this way, okay? Looking at those 2 rosters, I'd feel a little bit better if Bryce got hurt than if Caleb did, right? Because at least Andy Dalton's he's a veteran that if say Bryce sprained an ankle,
Yeah.
right? Let's just give him a week off. You're maybe not playing somebody terribly bad. You know, maybe you're playing Arizona that week, right? At least you know Andy can at least maybe get you to that win. He can manage you to a win. Okay, get Bryce healthy. Come back next week. Boom, ready to go. Caleb, he goes out. You got Tyson coming or whatever. You're not feeling too great. Okay, the only thing you
Yeah.
really have going for you is that you have good weapons where maybe they can kind of get you out of a bind, right? That's the only thing. But for me, looking at those 2, I get why they didn't play. Caleb played a little bit here and there, and I'm glad they put him in there. But sometimes, and I get why now, they invest, and it's going to go back to this again. And I don't like it, but it's going to go back to it. And this is just me thinking from in their thoughts is they put too much money nowadays into these players. When you were a number 1 pick back in the days, you know, we talk about like Elway and these guys, and they didn't make the money that they made signing these rookie contracts. They give these guys tons of money if you're in those lottery picks, right? I mean, it's just a lottery pick, let alone not the number 1. Lottery picks make a huge amount of money. So when you're number 1 overall, that amount of money you make, you're giving that to him already before he's even, after all the moves they made, he needs to prove that he can be that good then. Stroud did fine, and Stroud proved it last year.
Oh yeah.
So, I don't know. I guess we just kind of wait and see.
Yeah, and I agree with you too on that. But the money we talked about that you're throwing around a lot of money now for guys that haven't proven anything yet. Even with Jordan Love, again, 1 season doesn't deserve that type of money. So, but if you put Carolina aside, who's your division winner? Is it New Orleans? Is it Tampa? Is it Atlanta?
So,
I think it comes down to Atlanta or Tampa Bay.
So here's the thing, right? You, I got to look at everything again. So you got Tampa, Baker, Carolina's got
Yeah.
Bryce. You got Kurt. I
Baker
mean,
got the contract.
Kurt's now in Atlanta,
Yeah.
and
Well,
then
with Penix in waiting.
you got
And that wasn't fair to Kurt. I was surprised by that. That was kind of I thought they shafted him on that, but that's whatever.
yeah. Who am I missing? Who's it? I'm missing the. Oh, New Orleans got Carr.
The
So
car, yeah.
New
I
Orleans.
just don't see it with New Orleans
is
at all.
New Orleans is interesting because Olave is really good.
No, he
Olave is
is.
a great wide receiver. Carr,
Yeah, but he can be streaky, real streaky.
but regardless, Carr's got to be the best quarterback in that division still.
You putting him above Cousins?
Yeah,
I mean, you're looking at overall career thus far.
yeah. I'd put Carr over Cousins. Who
Yes, that's tough.
Cousins is losing.
I kind of like to think they sort of
Cousins is
balance
losing
each other out.
Jefferson. He's losing Jefferson.
Yeah,
He's
yeah, a little bit of success of
now
Washington.
he could be gaining somebody great, right? Now Cousins could be gaining somebody because Drake London could be that guy. Kyle Pitts could be so he could be gaining a Jefferson and a Hawkinson again, right? With Pitts and London. Now I'm not going to sit here and say Jefferson's talent. I'm not saying that because Jefferson is amazing. Drake is very, very good too. We just haven't seen that yet, but because he didn't have a great quarterback throwing to him. Now, is Cousins that guy? I don't know that yet, though. They got
but you know,
a great running back with Bijan. So
a lot of people have Atlanta as a lock for the division title, and I don't agree with that.
I could see it.
I can see it, yeah, but it's not a lock.
They got better at the quarterback position, obviously.
Yes.
If Pitts can be that guy at the tight end spot, yes. If Drake becomes that guy, Bijan's already that guy. But the defense, what is the defense going to do? That's the other thing. Yeah. And Cousins, everybody knows, prime time, playoff time, he's not that guy.
No, he doesn't. He always comes up short.
But that's what I'm saying. If it was me, I would rather then take Carr as my quarterback in the playoffs than I would take Cousins in the playoffs. I'm a Cousins fan. I like Cousins. If
I had to look at it from that standpoint, I would agree with you, bud. If you're asking me to pick a clutch moment guy between the two, I agree with you completely. I would lean towards Carr because, like you just mentioned, we talked about that in other episodes. About on point with Cousins that he just doesn't step up in the big situation. Carr is more gritty. I think he's a little more determined. I agree with you. If it was you got to win this, I would lean towards Carr.
Carr's IQ is just a little bit better as far as not making that mistake in a clutch time compared to what Cousins would do. So I like them, but the other thing that throws me off is Baker. What is Baker going to do with this team this year? They got a good team. They got Rashad White. They got Mike Evans. They have Chris Godwin. They're a good team. So
I know you're not a.
They might. Tampa Bay could fight for the division and win it too.
Okay, I know you're not a Baker guy, even going back to college. So and put aside the contract. Did Baker show you anything last year with getting Tampa Bay to playoffs that you at least said, okay, Baker's not as big a waste as I might have thought? He's not a Super Bowl guy, but I get it. I'd probably give him a contract to hang around, and let's see what we can do with him.
Baker Mayfield.
Did he prove?
Baker Mayfield did exactly what I'm basically saying that Caleb Williams should be doing in Chicago. Baker went to Tampa, got great talent around him, and he utilized him the way that he was supposed to. He has a tremendous wide receiver in Mike Evans, who, in my opinion, Mike Evans should already be fitted for his gold jacket in the Hall of Fame. I don't care if he doesn't. He did get one Super Bowl. Thank God to Brady for him, and I'm glad he did because he deserves it. But that guy goes out there and he freaking catches close to 100 balls, definitely 80 or more catches, and he always has 1,000 yards. I don't think he has a season he has not caught for 1,000 yards, including his rookie season. He has always had 1,000 yards every year. He is the most consistent wide receiver, probably not only in Tampa Bay history, but maybe in the NFL.
Yeah, it's been pretty impressive.
Yards. So Then you're going to add Chris Godwin on that. Chris Godwin's a great wide receiver too. Rashad White, very young and great up-and-coming running back. Baker started maturing, and that's what helped him become better.
That's a good point.
In Cleveland, it was the Bake Show. That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was Baker, just go out there and just try to do your thing. We're going to let you just run whatever you want to do, run around, go crazy, try to make plays. That wasn't what Baker needed because he needed he needed to grow up first. That's what needed to happen with Baker. And I think Cleveland really taught him a lot. Going to the Rams taught him a lot. I think working with McVay and Stafford, him getting a shot in Tampa, I think he did a great job, and he basically turned his career around and got a second chance, and I think he's doing a great job with it. So I actually think differently about Baker. I don't think he's ever going to obviously be in a Super Bowl or win a Super Bowl. That division is obviously still pretty bad. I don't see any team getting better. If a team is getting better or are better at the point, I'd have to put it in at Atlanta, only because it'd have to say that Cousins made the team better at quarterback, having him at quarterback. So for me, I think I'd have to probably go Tampa, New Orleans, Atlanta, and then Carolina. That's probably how I feel like the division.
Yeah, I agree with you, bud. And I can see a flip flop between obviously New Orleans and Atlanta, but who knows? Maybe Cousins.
Actually, I could see it being more flip flop between New Orleans and Tampa. It's going to be between those two who finishes off and wins the division, rather than. But for me, I think Atlanta's pushing too. I think all three of those actually. It's like one of those divisions where it's like 9-7, 9-8, whatever it may be, to win that division. That's where it's going to be, and it's going to be those three kind of just fighting for it to try to get over there. And obviously, I don't think.
Because real quick, and then actually we'll move on to the next division. I mean, Cousins this guy's getting up there in age. I mean, people don't talk about this. This guy is back end of the 30s, and I mean, this is where your career is pretty much coming to an end, unless you're Tom Brady, and that's the exception there. And we know quarterbacks play a little bit longer, but again, Cousins has never been the guy. He's been a guy, and in big moments, he's no guy. So we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But we'll see. But you're talking about between New Orleans and Tampa Bay. That could be the best bet. I do like Tampa as far as maybe being able to repeat as division champions. But we'll see what happens. But regardless, none of these teams are going anywhere.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I definitely agree with that.
So what are your thoughts on? I know you're big on. Well, at least I know you're have a high opinion of Philadelphia coming back this year off of last year's collapse.
I wish we never had to talk about this division. I don't like any team in this division. I'm just gonna put it out there. I don't like any team. I don't like the Cowboys.
I think I can tolerate Washington.
I don't like the Giants. I don't like the Commanders. I mean, I don't like any of them. Okay, I don't like.
But you do like Daniel Jones.
I used to, and then he had a terrible year last year. It's just like Carson Wentz. I gave Carson Wentz all these passes, and I tried to, fight for the guy, and then he goes and just, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago when he loses to Jacksonville and can't even make the playoffs, and there was no reason they should have.
Let me ask you this, bud. What's the win difference? What's the total win difference? Cowboys with CD, Cowboys without CD. You think he's 3 more wins, 3 more losses? You think with CD there, it's 4 more wins type of talent? Because they need him out there.
Oh my God, without CD, I mean, I think this team. Well,
you're talking about potentially the best. You're talking about potentially the best receiver in the league.
You're probably a team that's. What is that? 12? Because it'd be 12-5 now because they play the extra game. So you're a team that's what 12-5, 13-4. Without CD, you have now made yourself like a 10-win team.
They lost their defensive coordinator.
You're about a 10-win team without CD. Now, and the reason I say that, and the reason I still give double digits is because I still think Dak is still a premier quarterback. I think Dak can still figure it out. I think they have a good tight end. They have some other wide receivers that can make it happen, but there's no run game. I mean, what are we talking about? Dowell, who had fumble problems issue, and then we got Zeke back. Is Zeke supposed to be the starter? I mean, Tony Pollard
It's a
and all
two-back
that.
system, but
So for me, it's like without CD, how can you even say this team? I mean, what the defense? You're gonna write off the defense? I know the defense is stellar. Defense is great.
all any defense has to do, if CD's not out there, you double up on one receiver, take your chances with the weak side, and just see how it plays out. But you don't have to single up on any on all the receivers. You don't. With CD out there, you've got to commit to him, and that opens up, obviously, as you know, you and I know, doors for other receivers, tight ends, that type of thing, to make some noise. Without him out there, it's a massive loss.
Well, see, and then
That's
that
a
I guess
massive
and
loss.
then without him though, I guess that just kind of would have to switch over, and that would be the time to show for Dak to show what kind of player he really is, what kind of quarterback he is. Because if you still lead a team without CD to 12 wins, 13 wins, still go to an NFC Championship game, or even make the Super Bowl, well, then that just shows how great of a quarterback Dak, I guess, really is in the end. But if they have just a mediocre season without CD on there, then maybe you got to start looking at maybe making some changes, and maybe Dak is the one that you make the changes with.
And where's your defense at?
But I don't.
Are you the
Well,
defense
and that's the
that was
thing
a
is the
save
defense
to
got to
Green Bay?
be the defense has to play better. They were ranked. Dallas's defense for like the past 4 years has been ranked so high. And I'm not saying that they aren't good, because they have shown games where they did play well, but they haven't been consistent. And then when it gets to playoff time, they choke again. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't know what else it is, but I mean,
Or where's Philadelphia?
right now, looking at the division with everybody in there, everybody playing, I probably still got to go Philly 1. I think the addition of Saquon is huge. That is a huge.
And you think he
addition.
doesn't have a chip on his shoulder?
Absolutely. And
I guarantee you this guy has a chip on his shoulder.
What, mark the calendar for that game
Yep.
against the Giants.
Both games.
No, just mark the one in New York when they play.
Yeah, that one too. Yeah, I get you.
With the at New York,
I feel you.
or
Yeah.
where we play, New Jersey, I guess.
Meadowlands.
So mark that, because, and I'll tell you what, guys. Anybody out there playing fantasy football, I'd probably start Saquon that week too.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling that's going to be one of those. And you know what? I haven't looked at the schedule, but man, wouldn't that be great if they made that like a primetime game, a Monday night game, or a Sunday night game of some sort?
Oh, I fully see it, but I could easily see it.
Because I'm telling you, that might be something where you see something historic happen with the Giants, because man, it usually happens that way, right? When you trade between divisions like that. I mean, we've seen that with like Favre, right? When he left Green Bay, went to Minnesota. They had some good rivalry games. I think the same thing's gonna happen there, but I think Philadelphia did some good things. I know they lost some defensive players, so I know the defense may be a little bit down this year, but I think Hurts needs to have a bounce back season. He didn't have a great season last year.
I think the coach needs to have a bounce back season too. I think the whole coaching staff needs to have a bounce back season.
I don't know. I'm so up and down with that guy. One time, I'm watching this guy coach, and I'm like, man, he's great. He's really up and coming. I think he's one of the next better ones. And then he'll just do something totally weird the next game, and it's just like, why would you do that?
I would bet you, bud. I would bet you, and maybe you agree. I don't know. We haven't talked about this, but this is projecting. If Sirianni struggles, let's say the Eagles struggle, and a lot of it is centered around what they believe to be Sirianni's coaching, right?
Yeah.
What you want to bet at the end of the season, we saw this in the last season with Belichick, and there were talks. But what you want to bet if Sirianni really does struggle, that Philadelphia reaches out to Bill and says, "Hey, would you still think about it?"
Nah, I don't think he would.
I don't know, but I don't know. I keep
would.
hearing he wants to come back. And that would be a team to come back to, a team that's built to win now. And he wouldn't have to do a whole lot of renovation on it to try to get it to where they need to be. I can see where the Eagles could be enticing to him.
I don't think it would work. I don't think Jalen Hurts is a good fit with Belichick.
Is the Bill guy?
I don't think so.
That could be. That's a good point too. I like that.
I don't think Hurts,
that's a good point.
I don't think it would work between the two. He
Possibly not.
Bill's not that speed option type of college coach where he needs a Brady. He needs a sit in the pocket and run the offense type thing. He needs that. That's why I thought Mac would have been a great fit with them, because Mac wasn't a runner
Yeah.
in Bama. He was a sit in the pocket and just let the ball fly. But Mac didn't have a lot of options in New England either, and I'm not, and that's not, I'm not trying to sit here and make excuses for
You
him,
think
but he didn't have very many options in New England. New England's on the way down. What was he supposed to?
you think you think the Giants dropped to fourth and Washington kind of grabs the three spot?
Sorry, getting off track here, but
No, you're good. You're good, bud.
I think Philly's 1, Dallas 2.
We got to see what the kid can do. I mean, yeah, you're hearing good things, but again, we're back to real time, real game. Can you make it count? This is where we're at with this kid. I like him a lot, like you said, but I agree. I thought was the better quarterback over
I'm
Caleb.
giving it to him. I'm going to give Jaden Daniels the third spot in the division.
I think so too.
I'm going to give him the third spot over
I
the
think so too.
Giants. I think the Giants are.
I think Daniel
I think,
continues to slide.
Malik Neighbors is obviously going to have to do a lot, and Singletary obviously showed signs of being a good running back in Houston, in Buffalo. He has some good upside, so maybe, I mean, he's the number one option there. They're probably not going to throw a lot. He may get a lot of touches, but I just don't see the Giants doing much this year. I mean, they just don't look like a great team. I think the bringing in of Jaden, I think that's kind of really pushed Washington to a higher level. I like Jaden. I think he's going to be really good. I'm looking forward to him. And I don't say that a lot, but like I said, I don't like a lot of these teams, but I do like Jaden. So it might actually push me to watch a little bit more Washington games just because I want to see what he does, and things like that. But I'll give him the third spot. I think Washington could do it. They always have a pretty good defense too. They usually have a pretty strong defense. And offensive side though, we'll see. We'll see what they do. Like I said, it just comes back down to quarterbacking, and hopefully Jaden can figure it out sooner than later. But they're still, obviously, they're gonna have to learn a lot because you're still going up against Philadelphia and Dallas, and those two teams they are by far better than you still. So it's gonna be a tough season. But don't just don't fall apart right away. You'll get through it for sure. But
yeah, I think a lot of upside to the kid. See how he does. But I like him a lot, like you're talking about. But I do. I like the three spot with him too.
definitely.
So what do we think? And again, I keep hearing this. We talked about this last week, and I know he struggled in the preseason game. But good grief, but I mean, we go from playing in the freaking Super Bowl to we might need to bench this dude. And I'm like, what the F is wrong with you people?
It's just,
I mean, come on. You gotta trust in the process. This kid is not out there. He's not trying to make the team. He's trying to work the plays. He's trying to, this is about refinement for this kid. It's not about winning the position. He's got that. He's made some throws that were questionable. I get it, but good grief, people.
no,
Trust in his abilities.
It has nothing
he hasn't,
to do with.
He hasn't regressed.
It has nothing to do with passes that are, maybe questionable, or it's preseason, it's training camp. It's, hey, if I fit this in here, can my wide receivers catch it? Can I make this pass? I would rather during preseason see a quarterback with stats that are, he threw for 200 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 4 picks, rather than threw for, 50 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That just means that you weren't attempting. You were scared to make a play. Okay? It's preseason. Okay? And especially at the quarterback position, unless you're like really, really fighting for your job, somebody like a Brock Purdy is not fighting for his job. So what Kyle understands now and the rest of the team, which is why this isn't a big deal to San Francisco and why they're not elaborating more on this, and Kyle's not sitting here saying, "Oh man, we're struggling at quarterback and we need to find somebody," because he understands what's going on. Brock is just making plays, seeing what he can do, maybe that's the thing. Here's the problem, right? Everybody talks stuff about Brock, about he wasn't this entertaining guy, Mr. Irrelevant, right? He's just a game manager. So now that he's trying to step up his game. He's trying to make bigger plays. He's trying to be more, entertaining. Now you guys are mad and you guys are upset. Oh, he's throwing interceptions. This is what you guys wanted. You wanted to see him sling the ball, not be a game manager, right? Oh, that's all Purdy can do is just be a game manager. He's just kind of just, along for the ride. No, he's not. He's a great quarterback. I'm sorry to say that, and I wasn't a fan of him at first. I was not. I waited to see more about him. He got that team to the Super Bowl. He's been in the Super Bowl already. Brock Purdy is a great quarterback in the NFL. Okay? If anything, he's definitely top 5 in the NFC.
Good grief.
And
they
if
went
not,
to
he's top
overtime
3.
in the Super Bowl.
He's top 3.
They
And
went
if
into
not,
overtime.
he might be the best quarterback in the division. I mean, in the
They
NFC.
went into overtime. Yeah. And see, and this is another thing. I mean, people make it sound like, and we talked about the Rams just briefly. They got a great receiving core. Stafford's looking pretty good. I think the team is pretty solid. But they act like this is a wide open division from Arizona to San Francisco. Seattle and the Rams are all collectively have an equal opportunity to win this division. And I'm like, you have got to be effing kidding me. If you're talking about if each team is healthy, that Arizona has as good a chance to win the division as San Francisco does, you're insane. They do not. The Rams maybe have a chance, maybe, and that's a real big maybe. Seattle has zero chance to win that division. If San Francisco is healthy, Arizona has no chance.
See, so here's my thing is where's Ayuk's head this year? That's the big thing. He wanted out.
That's a good question.
Now apparently he's not. I think he's probably end up going to stay now. But is that what he wants? And to be honest with you, obviously he had a better year in my opinion than Debo. Now people are still higher on Debo than I am.
Yeah.
But I would rather have Ayuk. I'm higher on Brandon Ayuk. I think Brandon Ayuk is the number 1 wide receiver in San Francisco. I think he should be the number 1 option in San Francisco, not Debo.
But don't have it be this big distraction.
Exactly. But the thing is for Debo, the reason I would say this is because Debo's used more in other areas. You use him on that jet sweep. You use him in the backfield to run the ball, trick plays, things like that, where Ayuk is your wide receiver. He makes the plays for you out there on the field. He scores you touchdowns. McCaffrey, obviously great. San Francisco, obviously, it's the same thing for me with San Francisco as with Kansas City, right? They should just run away with this division. There shouldn't be anything close.
Pretty much.
Like you said, the Rams, maybe. I think the Rams do make the playoffs this year, but they're not close to winning the division. I'm a huge, you know me, I'm Stafford all the way. I love Stafford until he's out of the league. He's great. Obviously, Puka was a great story last year. I still think he's gonna be just as good this year. He should have a great season. Same thing with Cup. Run game should be okay for them. Defense is mediocre. They're gonna lose. They lost Donald. That's a huge loss, though, right?
It's massive leadership too from that point.
Exactly. So, what does the defense become if they're not good? Then it doesn't matter on that offensive side. I mean, to be honest with you, those Los Angeles Rams might end up being the San Diego Chargers of the '80s, right? Where the defenses are bad, but that offense can just go crazy. Where Fouts could put up 35 points, but the defense would give up 38 and they'd still lose, right? That might be that Rams team where they can just light it up on offense, but the defense just can't hold on to games or win them for them, right?
Yeah.
I'm with you on Seattle. I'm not there. I mean, I know Gino didn't, do a whole lot last year. He was supposed to be better than what he was. Obviously, everybody I think jumped a little bit on that bandwagon because of the way he ended the couple of years back, and then they thought he was going to be just as good last year, which he wasn't. I do like the run game. Kenneth Walker's a very good running back, so that helps Gino out a lot. He's got good wide receivers with Jackson Smith and Jimba and Metcalf too, obviously. So he still has some really good wide receiving cores. Noah Fant's a good tight end, but I still don't think Seattle's that team to dethrone San Francisco at all either. And then Arizona's just Arizona. Obviously, I'd love to see Marvin Harrison have a decent year, but Arizona I think is probably going to be the worst team in the league. All the way, like, they'll be last. I mean, I think Arizona will be fighting for that number 1 pick probably, and then that kind of gives, if that does happen, right, then that kind of puts the question, what happens with Kyler now, right?
I fully
Is he
believe,
still
Bud, that
there? Is he? Are they going to go a different route? I mean, you added Marvin Harrison, right? You got James Conner as your running back, who's really good. I think Conner's still a good option there at running back. Kyler has to do something. Kyler's in that range where I mean, you're sick and tired. I know you don't like Kyler. You're not a Kyler fan.
I don't.
Kyler to me is just a quarterback in the league. I could care less about him. He's just a quarterback in the league. You know what I mean? He's just he's a quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. I don't care for him. I don't not like him. He's just a quarterback to me. But he needs to do something. Okay, this guy, he came in with high praise too, and he has done absolutely nothing in this league. He has done
Except with her.
nothing. So they gave him Marvin Harrison. They got a good running game. He does have some other good wide receivers with him. Trey McBride's his tight end. Obviously, the defense is terrible, though, so that's going to not
Yes.
help him at all, too. But Kyler needs to become a playmaker again. He needs to get some excitement going on, and we'll see if that happens, but I don't see it happening. Like I said, I think they will be the worst team probably in the league for sure. I think them and Tennessee are probably the two teams that might fight for that bottom spot.
Yeah.
This year, from one team to the other. So I think Tennessee would probably be the worst AFC team. Well, I don't know. New England's pretty bad too, though.
Yeah.
I guess
I'll tell you what I
it's just
think.
to be honest, and it just goes back to this again. It's gonna be quarterback play. Is Drake May gonna be better, or Will Levis gonna be better? Between the two, one was at Kentucky, one was North Carolina, right? There's still two good schools.
Yeah.
I would probably lean more a little bit towards. I'd probably have to lean a little bit towards Levis because he has the experience more right now than Drake. Drake obviously hasn't played in the NFL, so maybe Levis. So maybe New England probably a little bit worse than Tennessee, but Arizona for sure in the NFC is probably going to be the worst team.
Yeah, and my comments with Arizona are pretty much in line with what you're thinking about. When you look at Tyler, and I say that, or Kyler, I should say, and I say this not really joking. Just this is what he's a Twinkie without the filling. Is there's just nothing there. There's not, and everybody knows that Arizona was contemplating drafting a QB prior to the season. This was talked about. This was on the table, and it didn't play out, obviously, even after the contract they gave the kid.
Yeah.
So I really believe, even with the addition, of Harrison, it's not going to help him enough. As a matter of fact, I think it's a detriment to Harrison. And I really believe that at the end of his 3 years, Harrison's going to say, I want out of here, or he's going to look elsewhere to go to see if he can hook up with a team that's going to be winning something. And I don't know that Kyler's going to be there after this season. I still think Arizona's going to be looking for a quarterback,
Well, and see,
whether it's through
that's kind
free
of
agency
where
or through the draft.
that's where I was going to go with this is you said Marvin not wanting to be there, but at the same time, like I said, if Arizona is dead last, they're going to go after a quarterback probably.
They have to.
Because that's going to be your reason why. So Kyler may not be there, so then Marvin might stay because there's somebody else in.
Well,
Plus,
good point.
The other
Yeah,
thing
good
you
point.
have to think about is Marvin Harrison is coming from his family and the way his dad was. His dad was a lifer. I mean, he stayed in Indianapolis.
Yeah, he was. Stand-up guy.
And I think you're going to get the same thing from him. Where, I mean, unless things really change or they do trade him, I could see Marvin Harrison becoming a Larry Fitzgerald. Even though the team isn't great on a certain years, he'll stick around and he'll just keep doing what he's supposed to do and play at a high level. I have nothing but high praise for him because I watched his dad play and he was amazing. I love Marvin Harrison. I hope his son is just as good, if not even better, because it'll give us something to watch. If it is in Arizona, that's fine with me, because I watched Larry Fitzgerald there play real well. But I hope he has a good career. I really do hope.
I do too.
I hope it doesn't get crutched by the fact that Arizona just can't draft anymore, doesn't get the right people in and personnel in. And if it does, then please, Marvin, then ask to be traded or go to a different place.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say with that is, Arizona's track record has never been great as far as drafting goes and bringing in talent that can really help. I mean, occasionally you get a Fitzgerald and that type of thing, but for the most part, you stumbled across the board to get people in. But I agree with you, Bud. San Francisco first, Rams second, Seattle probably third. And again, I always base this on health, folks. And obviously Arizona West. I just don't see much of a change there. I
Yeah,
just don't. San Francisco's a good softball club.
for sure.
So
Well, that was good, guys. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that. Please let us know in the chat too, if what you guys thought. If you liked our rankings, if you guys have a different set of rankings too, we'd like to know who you guys have winning the division this year.
yeah.
Who you guys have maybe as some sleeper teams, some teams that maybe we didn't talk enough about, some sleeper players too. Maybe next week we can get into some of that too. Maybe we can talk about some players that we are thinking that are going to have some good seasons. We talk about some maybe that maybe we can talk about some players that are ranked high, but we think maybe are having may actually be down this year. So we'll get into that. Definitely it's nice to get back into some football talk. We've been out of it for a little while, but it's good to get back into it for sure, guys. So, like I said, please reach out to us. Let us know your guys' list, who you guys got at the top for right now. But we'll get into like more in depth. Kind of talk about it more once the seasons get started. We can get full rosters, see who's been cut, who's been added, things like that. But right now, it's just kind of our early projections, I guess we can call it there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, but definitely, we appreciate you guys coming out with us again tonight. We should be back again next weekend, 6:30 Mountain Standard Time. But like I said, we appreciate you guys coming out and checking us out every single week for sure.
And like Anthony said, folks, this is that time of the year. I mean, baseball playoffs are coming up. College football just started. Florida State already, top 10 and lost their first game to Georgia Tech. So already being talked about being knocked out of the playoffs at the end of the year. So a lot of things going on with that. Basketball down the road, but a lot of good, exciting things going on right now. But obviously, the NFL getting ready to kickstart in a couple of weeks. But as always, as Anthony said, we appreciate the comments, suggestions, anything, everything. Just let us know. We're happy to listen and certainly act on it if it's something that sounds really good. But as I always say, this show, what you see, what you hear, does not, will not, cannot happen without the gentleman next to me. It's his insight. I said it last week. I'll say it again. He is a computer savant. He doesn't give himself enough credit, but that's why I try to chime in and let him know how good he is. Mr. Anthony Alvarez is just an absolute computer genius, and he helps make this show what it is.
I don't
And
know.
I thank him for that.
I don't know about computer genius, but it's just sometimes you could just find really good things on YouTube and then you just watch them and then you just kind of learn from that.
Hey, great leaders always take suggestions.
Exactly, that's for sure. I'm with you on that. Once again, guys, thank you once again for tuning in with us. We'll be back again next weekend. So I hope everybody has a great night, a great rest of the weekend, and hopefully everybody has a good week next week. All right. So have fun and stay safe out there, everybody.
Everybody have a great weekend.